Welcome to RPPV News, bringing you stories from across the Mornington Peninsula. I'm Catie Sharp, and our top items for this edition are: our world gets closer to normal with travel restrictions lifted. Wheels are moving very slowly on the Baxter train line. Main Street Mornington is having a car-free summer. RPPV begins an investigation into the Hillview Quarry expansion, and two Frankston mates are doing Ks for days for a very good cause. Now for the full stories. It's our first week of being a fully reunited state after the 25-kilometre limit and Ring of Steel were lifted by the state government. At the time of reporting, there were only 3 active COVID-19 cases in all of Victoria. It will probably be another week before the impact of the end of lockdown is seen in those figures, so people are encouraged to keep socially distanced, wear a mask, and continue getting tested if you have cold-like symptoms, however mild. Local government is also encouraging people to socialise and shop locally to help kickstart our local economy after the long lockdown. RPP was given a shout-out in the Australian Parliament last week by federal member for Dunkley, Peter Murphy. Ms Murphy, a regular guest on the Lockdown Show with Brendan and Shivani, commended the station for being a source of comfort, support and information for locals.
We have, though, amazing local media. RPPFM is our community radio station which broadcasts down the Mornington Peninsula and up to Frankston, dedicated to local stories, local people, local news. During COVID, Lockdown Radio with Brendan and Shivani has been a source of comfort and support and information for people right across my electorate and down into the Mornington Peninsula and the electorate of Flinders.
Meanwhile, Peter Murphy claims a preliminary business case released this week by the federal government regarding their promised metro train line to Baxter reveals a shortfall in federal funding of over $1.27 billion. The train line was a Liberal Party promise made in January 2019. The Office of the Minister for Urban Infrastructure, Alan Tudge, has stated the full business case is yet to come. Following a strong campaign by local business owner Alexis Collier and in a bid to revive the local economy, a large part of Main Street Mornington is closed to cars this summer. As of last Friday, Main Street between Barclay Street and the Esplanade is open only to pedestrians and cyclists. Traffic will be diverted around the ring roads to the car parks either side of Main Street, with disabled parking and bus stops relocated to the closest suitable locations. Shire CEO John Baker said this will create more space to allow people to move around and keep at a safe social distance, building confidence for visitors and locals to return to our shopping strips. People who need access to disabled parking will still have it. Alexis Collier, the owner of local bar Brass Razoo, had earlier presented to the council a petition of over 3,000 signatures requesting the closure to help ensure the survival of local businesses. When we return, reporter Shivani Pillay begins an investigation into the proposed expansion of Hillview Quarry in Arthur's Seat.
First and foremost, we're a bank. For over 160 years, we've delivered financial services all over Australia. What makes us different? Our partnerships with the communities we serve. Our unique community banking model shares banking profits. So when you bank with your local community bank, you make a difference in your community. Whether it's new facilities, or improved health services, support for youth, or help for those most in need. Community bank branches are locally owned and operated, so decisions on where to invest profits are made by locals. To date, $250 million has been returned to communities and initiatives Australia-wide. Behind the numbers are real stories and real branches making a real difference for real people. Bank with Bendigo Bank and make a difference to your community.
Battery World now open in Mornington.
We know batteries. We know our 75 D23Ls from our DIN 65 LHs. And we know which is best for you. We have the range and a spark no one else can match, because we live and breathe batteries. Those beautiful boxes and cylinders that power our lives and our passions. That's why we're the batteryologists. We're Battery World.
Battery World Shop 1, 43 Mornington Tyre Road, Mornington.
welcome back. Protests are hotting up against Hillview Quarry's proposed expansion on Arthur's Seat. A petition opposing the expansion has received over 19,000 signatures as Hillview prepares its environmental effects statement. This week, Shivani Pillay interviewed Mark Fansett, author of the petition and member of the Peninsula Preservation Group.
Today I present an interview as part of our Quarry series. The Hillview Quarries, which is owned by Ross Trust, a charitable trust, is seeking to reopen and develop private land it owns in Dramana. We are here at the proposed site that borders the Arthur's Seat State Park to the east and to the west. The proposal involves the excavation of almost 93 acres of native bushland. It will be the size and depth of 2.5 times the MCG light towers and approximately the size of 22 MCGs. It will involve the excavation of granite and stone of some 70 million tonnes over 70 years. Today we will be interviewing Dr. Mark Fansett, who is the president of the Peninsula Preservation Group, also known as Save Arthur's Seat. Dr. Mark Fansett, welcome to the Quarry series being presented by RPPV. We're delighted that you could join us today to give us some transparency and voice the community concerns around this development. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit more about the Peninsula Preservation Group? It's also known as Save Arthur's Seat, as I understand it from Facebook. How did you get involved in that, and what is its mission and objective?
So basically we started in 2013. Early in 2013 we heard from a number of sources that the council had agreed to let the Hillview Quarries open a rubbish tip on Arthur's Seat, and a group of local people got together and thought, this is crazy to put a massive rubbish tip and import rubbish from Melbourne into an environment like this. We thought that was just crazy, and the risk to Dramana and Port Phillip Bay. So we set that up in 2013. It took about 9 months and it was finally thrown out by the EPA, and we were unofficially told that the government would have refused it anyway if the EPA hadn't have knocked it back. After that we thought, great, we've protected this amazing place right on Dramana's doorstep, and a group of the community got together and thought, we've spent so much time in this area and we want to do something to help. So we established a land care group. So in the 7 years since, we've been working at areas of the park and in private properties, trying to connect up areas of bushland so that helping the biodiversity on the peninsula.
Coming to that and to the process, we were talking about the EPA rejecting the initial proposal a few years ago for the rubbish tip.
Yes.
The process is different here, isn't it? Because as we understand, the environmental effects statement,
yes,
which has to be prepared by Hillview in order to get
yes,
permission, if you like,
yes,
is some 2 years away.
At least, yes.
At least, but that will involve a number of reports on the environment, on biodiversity, about the steps that Hillview takes.
Yes, yes.
But is there any issue there in terms of the process?
Yes.
That you see? Because it seems to me, having spoken to council, the council's not involved at all. They're just another participant. They just have one voice.
That's right.
Just like you as an individual.
Or any of
this
us,
will
yes,
go straight to the Planning Minister, Richard
That's
Wynne.
Right. Yes. So the problem with the system, the EES, is, and I used to, before I understood it, I used to think that the EES was a great process, that there'd be years of scientific research, and if there was anything important, anything that needed to be saved or protected, that would happen. But unfortunately, the EES process is conducted by Hillview Quarries, so they enlist companies to actually do that. So the actual government scientific officers, they don't actually come out here on site and collect any information. So what we are forced to do is trust the developer, in a sense. And there's a huge threat there where there's massive amounts of money involved potentially in this proposal. The amount of money that the developer can make is massive, and that brings into question if it's biased or not biased, and we have concerns about that. We've requested to go onto this land and do our own surveys. They've refused us permission to do that.
As a community organisation?
They've refused any requests from people that have asked.
Have you done an ecologist report?
Yes, we've got an ecologist on the peninsula that's done numerous reports at various regions around Arthur's Seat and the peninsula as a whole. He's done surveys in this section of the state park and over there. So we've actually got a survey from him, and his conclusions were there's 28 threatened species. So roughly similar to sort of what Hillview's reports have said as well. But as I said, it's not just the plants and the animals, the actual communities as a whole are threatened as well. There are so many plants and animals here, as you mentioned.
Everyone thinks koalas, and we love koalas, but there's so many other endangered species, I understand.
Koalas are a really good indicator because they're a large animal and they're slow moving. They're very visible, but there's lots of other things. There's bandicoots that are endangered. There's antechinus. There's all sorts of lizards and frogs as well. There's threatened birds as well. The swift parrot roosts here. We've got the white-bellied sea eagle. And plants as well. You know, the number of flowering plants you see around us now, the bush is actually alive with flowering plants, and we've found endangered species of plants as well. Hillview's own application to the Planning Minister listed 24 different species of plants and animals that are like threatened species that are likely to occur on the site.
Dr. Fan said in terms of the uprising and momentum that this has gained in terms of opposition,
yes.
There's been headlines recently about air quality and the concern for children at the local primary school, which is Red Hill Consolidated School,
yes.
and community health in general. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, the proximity, if you look at the planning documents that they've given to the Minister, the school will be about 800 metres south of the quarry.
So from here,
From here it's about 1.3 kilometres, but the actual, as I said to you, the pit will start here and go for another 800 metres.
And it will be somewhere back here, won't it? In terms of the proposed site, it's behind us now.
The pit will be almost a kilometre in length, so it will get much closer to the school. The prevailing wind on Arthur's Seat is the strong northerlies that whip up the hill. And if you're blasting would probably only happen once a week, but certainly crushing would be going on 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And when you crush large amounts of rock, you release plumes of dust. And we've had people sending us photos of those large plumes of dust over their current quarry. So our concerns is that we've looked at other quarries in the state of Victoria and we've nowhere been able to find a quarry that would have a school as close as the Red Hill School is. And the concern is when you crush granite, you get silica dust. P2.5 silica dust, which we know causes silicosis.
There are also other private properties in the vicinity, aren't there?
Yes.
In close proximity, say a kilometre or so away from the proposed site?
There are houses within. The closest house I think is about 350 metres from the pit.
And Hillview is fully aware of this issue to do with dust and pollution and the effects on the community.
Yes, so it was almost humorous to see. We have a person that's building a house about 300 metres behind you. That'll be the closest house to stage 1 of their quarry. When he went for a planning permit, he received one objection from the manager of Hillview Quarries, and that objection said that no houses should be built within 500 metres because the amenity of that house will be impacted by the blasting and the crushing of rock.
But doesn't that show some insight and understanding by Hillview? Doesn't it show that they are cognisant of the issues?
Well, I think it's more concerning is that if we shouldn't be living within 500 metres, there are 40 houses that are within 500 metres. What's going to happen to them? The school is 800 metres. So does that dust and noise stop at 500 metres? Is there going to magically, the dust will suddenly fall to the ground at 500 metres? I don't think so.
But this is what the environmental effects statement surely will be addressing. I mean, you're saying, well, they're not independent reports, they're biased, potentially, but we'll get a much better picture and the public will be able to comment on that when it comes out, which we're It's anticipated that ES statement will come out in early 2020, is that right?
Early 2022.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, early 2022.
You would think that, but the problem is that when they put out that, if we focus on dust, or we could focus on noise or
there's noise as well.
There's noise, there's traffic, there's fire, there's numerous ones. But the issue with the dust is that they will put in their report, these are the things that we're going to do to minimise dust. We'll spray whatever, we won't blast on these days, we'll cover the crusher in an enclosed building or whatever. They can say all of these things, but once the quarry's up and running and producing that dust, then there's no stopping it. Because if you look at the current quarry, I've got photographic evidence of huge plumes, hundreds of metres high, coming from that quarry. If they knew
From the current quarry?
From the current quarry. If they knew how to control dust, why wouldn't they be doing it up there when you've got houses within 200 metres?
Thank you, Shivani. RPPV will continue this special report over the coming weeks. The Mornington Peninsula Shire has called for expressions of interest from local artists to help decorate the new Yawa Aquatic Centre in Rosebud. The centre is looking for an artist to create a series of photographs that will adorn the main wall of the entrance for 12 months. The successful artist must live on the peninsula and will be awarded $5,000 for their work. More than 400,000 visitors are expected at the centre, so go to the Mornpen website for details. Sadly, there will be no Festival of Lights in Frankston this year, but fear not, the celebrations will be plentiful. Frankston's Magical Christmas will kick off with a live concert which will be streamed from the Frankston Arts Centre on Saturday the 28th of November. This will include the lighting of the 100-year-old Norfolk Pine on Davy Street. Then celebrations will continue throughout December, including a Magic Wonderland walkthrough experience at the Arts Centre, a decorations trail, 12 days of carolling, activities and competitions, and a special appearance by Santa. For details, visit discoverfrankston.com. And two intrepid Frankston mates have slipped on their comfiest shoes to walk K's for days. This week, Nathan Harris Dent and Blake Dobles started a fundraising walk from Melbourne to Brisbane. After a couple of false starts due to the lockdowns and border closures, they began their 2,200-kilometre walk at Flinders Street Station last Thursday and expect to take 3 months to complete the journey. Other than two, in their own words, have an adventure, the men are raising funds and awareness for a small local charity, Dogs for Kids. Dogs for Kids raises and trains assistance and therapy dogs for children who face physical, intellectual, emotional and social challenges. You can follow and cheer on Nathan and Blake via their K's for Days Facebook page and can make a tax-deductible donation via mycause.com.au under K's for Days. RPP will be following and reporting on their progress over the coming months and wish them a blister-free adventure. Now we go to David Robertson with the Bendigo Bank Market Update.
Business and consumer confidence around Australia have improved over the last month thanks to a wide range of factors. Although there's a long way to go to fully recover from the COVID-19 recession. An update on our views for the economy and the markets as we race towards 2021. The RBA delivered their rate cut as forecast on Melbourne Cup Day, adding further support to borrowers, especially via fixed rates, thanks to quantitative easing. Although they did flag that this would be the last rate cut in the series, and that negative interest rates are not on their roadmap. Later last week, the RBA upgraded their forecasts for economic growth and jobs in 2021, with GDP in the recession reaching its low point mid-year, down over 7%, but the rebound will be around 3% in the second half of this year and up to another 5% gain next year. The recession was incredibly uneven and indiscriminate, hitting different industries and regions to vastly different degrees, and the recovery will probably be equally uneven. As always, there will be upside and downside scenarios that need to be considered, but the latest news does seem to be pointing in the right direction, including new COVID case numbers down to 0 for over a week now in Victoria, sharp gains in stock markets, in part thanks to the US election outcome, stabilising property prices locally, and encouraging news on vaccine testing. When combining all of this with the tax cuts kicking in and another extension to the Job Seeker supplement, it all sounds promising. The trick from here, however, may be how we respond to all the policy incentives. So far, the rise in income levels, thanks to all the government support, has been saved rather than spent. So, will this pickup in confidence encourage spending, and will businesses take the incentives to invest and to hire new workers? This will also depend on how quickly we reopen borders and whether local tourism can offset the absence of international tourists. Keeping the virus at bay remains crucial and will allow us to join travel bubbles with other countries in the same position. The financial markets are back in a risk-on mood after the uncertainty of the US election is behind us, or at least confined to the courts. And so, both the stock market and the Aussie dollar are back on the rise. Our share market had been lagging the US and tech stocks in particular, but if the vaccine news keeps improving, then the V-shape that is halfway there might fully form and avoid a W-shape. The same can be said for property prices, which rose nationally in October for the first time since the global pandemic, hopefully a sign of further confidence in 2021. The same unknowns are still in play, but there's been progress made, and we'll take any small wins for the moment. And that's the market update from Bendigo Bank.
Now to Alana with the coming week's weather report.
Oh, didn't see you there. I was too busy pretending I was on an African safari. It's Alana here with your RPPV 7-day weather forecast for the Mornington Peninsula. Saturday the 14th of November, it's looking like we'll have a top of 20 degrees. You can expect partly cloudy conditions throughout most of the day and a slight chance of a shower in the early afternoon. On Sunday, it's looking like we'll have a low of 11 degrees and a beautiful warm top of 30. You can expect patchy early morning fog that'll clear for a sunny afternoon, but keep in mind we are expecting a stormy change in the late afternoon that'll bring in some rain. On Monday, to start your next week, it's looking like we'll have a low of 16 and a top of 22 degrees. You can expect those showers to hang around throughout most of the morning and a pretty stormy afternoon with southwesterly gusts of up to 40 kilometres an hour. On Tuesday, we'll have partly cloudy conditions again throughout most of the day. We'll have a maximum temperature of 19 degrees and 35 kilometre an hour westerly winds. On Wednesday though, that wind will be easing. We'll have a low of 9 degrees and a top of 22 for a beautiful sunny afternoon. On Thursday, those partly cloudy conditions will be back. We'll have a low of 12 degrees and a top of 29 on Thursday. We can also expect some pretty gusty westerly winds throughout most of the day. On Friday, to end your week though, it's looking like we'll have a maximum temperature of 18. Partly cloudy conditions throughout most of the morning, but they'll clear for a beautifully sunny afternoon. So I'll be exploring the most that the Mornington Peninsula has to offer this weekend, and I hope you all have a lovely Saturday and a warm Sunday, and I'll see you next week.
And finally to Muzz, our man on the coast, with the surf report.
Morning guys, welcome back to this week's Mornington Peninsula Surf Report, and welcome to everyone who's now back in the water. A little bit hectic first few days, so people aren't being nice in the water, so everyone pull their head in and let's get back to normal. Looks like a pretty reasonable week in front of us for surf. Although the swell's small at this first part of the week, it will pick up Thursday. Winds will remain pretty good. It's going to go up and down swell-wise and up and down wind, but primarily for November, looks like it's not a bad run of surf. So get back in the water, have fun and have a smile on your face.
And that's all from our team here at RPPV News, serving the community with stories that matter to you. Thank you for keeping our region safe by keeping your distance and wearing a mask. Be sure to shop and dine locally wherever possible. Keep watching and do tell your friends. Bring you the news from coast to coast across the Mornington Peninsula. I'm Catie Sharp. See you for the next edition.